No, that's what you destroyed us in before.
Couldn't see my face. I got out of bed today, staring at a ghost who forgot to float away. Didn't have all that much to say. Couldn't even tell me his own name and where my body.
Liz, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? What kind of projects you have worked on before? And
Sure. Yes, so I'm a documentary filmmaker. I've been making documentaries for about 15 years. And my sort of portfolio, my work, has primarily focused on human rights and environmental rights issues. And this is my first animal rights film. And not only did it facilitate my own awakening. It was a real incredible journey of discovery. I wanted the film to be a tool to facilitate that kind of awakening for a broad audience. And so, you know, having community screenings are very important, but also screening the film in different diverse types of venues and for broadcast, and it's really important that the film is seen by a broader audience, and that's always the goal. There's two parts to the goal. One is for it to be a tool for activists to reinvigorate activists, but also for activists to be able to use the film to show everyone in their life and to say, this is what I believe in, this is what I care about, and I think this film will help to open your eyes and your heart and your mind. In part because it's not a violent movie. Of course, it's chilling, it's haunting and disturbing, but it's also heartwarming. And we tried to really elevate the subject matter through the power of cinema and Joanne's photographs to create something that's actually quite magical, so that you experience animals for who they really are.
well, I think the film is quite a special animal rights film. I don't know if you have seen other animal rights films. Usually they are really very difficult to watch. There's a lot of scenes from slaughter and stuff like this. And I think this film, Liz took a bit of a different approach by following the photographer John MacArthur.
Yeah.
You're not like bombarded with horrible images. Can you tell us a bit more about why you chose that kind of approach?
Yeah. I chose that approach exactly for the reason that you just mentioned, which is that I wanted to reach a broader audience. And, you know, Joanne is a very accessible, compassionate, and talented person and photographer. So I think centering a feature-length documentary around a human protagonist as that entry point into a very tough subject was my instinct as a filmmaker. And I think that it works for most people. I think that she sort of becomes, she sort of takes your hand and takes you on this journey in the movie. And you see the world through her eyes. And I think that's powerful because she has a different way of seeing the world. She sees the world as a vegan would see the world, or as an animal lover would see the world. And this is a vision that the film is trying to communicate to a broad audience.
There's a dilemma that filmmakers face, because on the one hand, they have to show the reality of what is happening. That's the way they have to really shock us, mobilize us, open our eyes and our hearts. But on the other hand, it can't be too graphic, that people will turn away and say, this is just too painful, I don't want to engage with this. So I think that the power of your film is that it creates a really good balance. Every time we are exposed to those very disturbing images, I mean, there were moments when I felt compelled to close my eyes, but then soon afterwards, you take us to the animal sanctuary, and there's like a relief. You said, okay, I can go on.
And you also you speak in schools, you say. I'm curious, how is the reaction if you bring up these issues, to younger people?
So it's a very rewarding type of work, because I often go into schools, speak with groups that, like myself when I was that age, have no clue about what is going on. They consume meat mindlessly, not having any awareness of where that meat comes from. And they think it's an absolutely natural and acceptable thing. And of course, who can blame them? That's the message they receive on the media, through their families and everywhere. That's what our culture, that's the message that our culture ingrains in our minds, that it's not only fine to eat meat, but it's necessary for our health. Mm-hmm. So it's a hard job, really, sort of undoing all these myths.
Yeah. People care about animals. We know that. Surveys have been done at large. And the average person will say that they care about animals and they don't want to know about the suffering of animals, that they're aware that animals are suffering, and they're also aware on some level of society's complicit position and behavior, and how we contribute to this system that industrializes the use of animals and uses animals en masse in all of these various industries, be it food, fashion, entertainment, biomedical research, product testing. Literally billions of animals are used within the system globally every single year. People on some level are aware of this, but are afraid to look, and pay attention. And so the film is an offering, it's an entry point, it's a consciousness-raising film to help people open their eyes so that they want to care and see. And then, after we're aware, we can make changes in our behavior. And that's really the trajectory for social change.
Yeah, I think this is the environmental issue. We from Earthmovies are especially interested in that, and often people don't see that. I think, the connection between how we use animals and the impact it has. I mean, there's a lot of info material there, and I mean, meat production causes more greenhouse gas emissions than all transportation put together. I mean, this is massive. It's really one of the biggest environmental issues we have, but it's not really addressed as such, I think. Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, it's really amazing that this issue wasn't even raised by the Al Gore film, which created such a discussion about climate change. But the issue of animal agriculture wasn't even mentioned, and it is the #1 cause of climate change. 80% of greenhouse gas emissions are caused by animal agriculture. So people tend to think that, there's a joke that says a vegetarian or a vegan driving a car is doing more for the environment than a meat eater riding a bicycle. And not to mention, the destruction of rainforests. Again, in Brazil, this is something that I saw when I was working in the Amazon, how the forest is being destroyed for what? Well, up until recently, it was to create pastures for cattle grazing. And now farmers are understanding that it's more economically efficient to confine cattle to factory farms. So the forest is being burnt down to grow crop soya to feed the cattle. 75% of all the soya production is used to feed cattle, which then goes to feed animals. And it's a very inefficient way of producing food, because you need 10 kilos of cereal to produce 1 kilo of meat. Yeah. And what usually happens is this meat will feed populations in developed countries, while populations are starving in countries like Brazil, for example. And, not to mention loss of biodiversity that happens there, and the fact that by burning down this vegetation, you are also losing the capacity to absorb CO2 that we have in the rainforest. So yeah, it is a massive environmental problem.
I think that change is a ripple effect. We see that all through history with all social movements, whether it be gender, race, homophobia, whatever it is, we see that change is a ripple effect and it takes root. And once it takes root, it becomes strong. And I also am a firm believer that a variety of tactics and approaches is what is necessary. So grassroots, veganism, the scientific movement that's happening right now is also really exciting. There are scientists that are focused on animal sentience, and they're illuminating this important, empirical evidence. People really believe in science. And that's a very important approach as well, because people are starting to learn that species beyond our species are morally significant, and slowly but surely we'll get to the point where we recognize that all species are morally significant. So I think we're moving forward. We're moving forward, and we have to hold on to the positive and remember that, because it's easy to, I think, get really overwhelmed when we look at statistics that are quite staggering, when we maybe for the first time become aware of this issue and we're struck by grief and it's overwhelming emotionally. So I think it's important, I truly believe, and Joanne answers this question all the time when we do Q&As, when people ask her about her PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and how does she take care of that as an activist, and she says that she has to, and she does, because the animals need her, and the animals need us to be their voice, and so we can't afford to get burnt out and bitter and angry, and we need to stay engaged, and whatever it is that we're passionate about, whether it's the environment or animals, whatever it is, stay engaged and be positive.
I got out of bed today, staring at a ghost. We forgot to float away, didn't have all that much to say. Couldn't even tell me his own name or where my body goes. Where my body goes, Africa or Mexico. Oh, where my body goes, where my body goes. Oh, have you seen my ghost? See my ghost, see my ghost. Oh, have you seen my ghost? Staring at the ground. Oh, have you seen my ghost? See my ghost, see my ghost. Oh, have you seen my ghost? See those goddamn clouds. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. You're some kind of medicine man. Take the demons right out of my head. You can't kill something that's already dead. So leave my soul alone. I don't need no surgery. Take those knives away from me.